Then there's the reduction. Another item in the policy reform is the general reduction in the cost of governance. And one of the key ways by which we've tried to address that is the zero-based budget. The zero-based budget. Now, the zero-based budget has received a bit of attention, and some people have even assumed that it means that no money will be spent at all, you know. But I think, not surprisingly, people will believe that this is a very stingy sort of government. But the truth is that the zero-based budget is actually a system, and I'm sure many of us are familiar with this. It's a system that insists that every agency must justify what its actual costs are. So whatever an agency believes is its cost, it must justify. So every agency, as it were, starts at zero. So there is at 0 naira, and then you justify the items in your budget, and you tell why, and you justify, give reasons why you want to spend this amount of money. So rather than the incremental budgeting system, which is traditional, where you simply say, we got 200 million last year, so this year we need 10% more than 200 million. Now you start at zero. Whether you were 200 million last year or not, you start at zero, and then you justify why it is that you want to spend what it is that you're spending. That way, we believe we will be able to cut costs substantially, and we believe that it will be easier to align policy with the budget, so that you are not only justifying what you want to spend, you are also making the point that what you want to spend aligns with the overall policy and direction of the government. So the zero-based budget is one that we're working on. Of course, for those who know how this functions, it's extremely it work, and people are literally working round the clock to make sure that we're able to present the budget in good time. But it's a rigorous process, but we think that that process is necessary if we're going to be able to rationalize costs and ensure that costs comply with the parameters that have been set. Strengthening accountability and integrity systems is another issue that interests the government, of course, as part of its policy reform. The whole aim, of course, is to prevent and combat corruption, conflict of interest, as well as develop mechanisms for self-regulation and external oversight and compliance with the Code of Ethics. As you know, we set up recently, the President has set up the Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption, which is supposed to work with the institutions, the EFCC, ICPC, and other anti-corruption institutions to improve their capacities and also to assist them in the whole process of combating corruption. Each of those institutions, the EFCC and ICPC, of course, need a great deal of reform in terms of their approach to the whole anti-corruption fight. But I think that the critical issue is one of political will, and there is no shortage of political will in fighting corruption, and we believe that laying the foundations properly and ensuring that those institutions are properly empowered and have the required capacity to deal with corruption on an ongoing basis is very crucial. But aside from that, we think that the prevention of corruption and generally creating an atmosphere or an environment where corruption is unlikely or less likely to happen is also more important to us as a long-term plan. The whole process of strict observance of the Code of Ethics to prevent conflict of interest, these will be some of the discussions that we'll be having with the ministers at the retreats once the ministers have been sworn in. Of course, the issues will revolve around around issues of ethics, the code of ethics, issues around transparency and accountability, and what the government itself intends to do in ensuring that each public official is held to account and is transparent in their conduct, with especially in their conduct as they interface with the public. A lot of these issues, of course, are being developed daily, and we're working very closely with the institutions in order to be able to not only assess their current needs, but also to be able to get their own sense of how the reforms will go. But there's quite a bit of work going on especially around integrity systems in the various institutions that are being targeted for that purpose now. Human capacity development in the public service is, of course, a major component of the reform agenda, and needs assessments are going on to ensure that human resource development is geared towards addressing specific and targeted capacity needs and gaps relevant to service delivery, an enabling environment for business and overall institutional effectiveness. Then, of course, we intend to strengthen performance measurement, beg your pardon. Another major aspect of the ongoing reform is to develop criteria for measuring institutional performance for enhanced effectiveness, efficiency, impact, and relevance to the daily needs of citizens. This will involve a robust monitoring and evaluation framework that will guide a new incentive system for the public service and setting targets for critical institutions in service delivery. Mechanisms and processes will be put in place for periodic reviews and adaptation to evolving circumstances. We believe that we must have a more keenly monitored, performance-based process within our MDAs. And we have to examine how objectives are measured within our public institutions, and where necessary to adjust or create new metrics for expected output and performance. At the moment, our MDAs are accused of negative competition, and this, many claim, has led to a silo mentality. The MDAs simply don't talk to each other enough, and many times you find that one MDA is doing exactly the same thing as another, and there just isn't enough communication between the MDAs. And it's entirely possible with a huge bureaucracy such as we have, that you actually have several different MDAs executing more or less the same projects and the same programs, and achieving sometimes similar or dissimilar results, but without necessarily talking to each other at all. And that, we believe, of course, is a waste of public resources and cannot be allowed to continue. So we must, of course, streamline the work of the ministries and ensure, and the agencies, and ensure that there is sufficient communication, and that the MDAs are talking to each other, and that there is a clear path to, in line with the policy direction of government. Now, one of the critical issues, of course, of our zero budgeting system and the policy-based budget is that it takes into account this particular issue, because all the parties, everyone is working towards a particular policy direction. It's very clear what it is, and we're also very conscious of how much can be spent on any particular thing. So it will become increasingly difficult for MDAs to, as it were, go off on their own tangent without complying with, without keeping to the policy direction that government has set. Effective and inclusive participation. all through the civil service, we are strengthening and putting mechanisms in place for stakeholder engagement to enhance service delivery. Last week, we were at a meeting with the permanent secretaries and heads of some of the agencies, looking at the policy direction of government, and also trying to inform ourselves about the zero-based budget process, what it will involve, and generally critiquing policy, the general policies and the ideas of government. And this was a first-time event, and many of the participants were, of course, for the first time, were engaged in a process of actually developing the ideas around the budget and critiquing the policies of government and preferring their own policies in an atmosphere where they were able to speak frankly about what their own concerns were and what they thought should be done and what they thought shouldn't be done. That process is one of the ways by which we intend to achieve effective and inclusive participation. And we have asked the permanent secretaries to do the same with their own officers, so that we actually have a robust debate, if you like, and robust contributions to the whole policy process, and especially the budget process. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the reforms aimed at strengthening our public institutions. And of course, I know that the Roundtable will be asking several questions, and I'm sure that your contributions also will greatly enhance the work of public institutions reform. Thank you very much for listening.